Hello, welcome to episode number 11 of the People We Love podcast. I am Adam Choit. You better damn well not forget it. What's up, guys? How are you doing today? I don't really have any housekeeping to do at the top of this show, so I figure I'll get right into it. Today I'm joined by my friend, the much accomplished entrepreneur, Karen Happel, founder of the superstar marketing and social media company, Genuine Content. In a fun, honest, and raw interview, we talk her life, career, and very much about her amazing friend, Hofstra University professor, Dr. Peter Gershon, a man who's touched the lives of so many of his students over the years and has always been there for Karen since she's known him. Yeah, I just pretty much read word for word and, a social media post I already used and also what's basically the description of the show. But whatever, man. I'm just trying to be efficient over here and make things happen. But without any further ado, here's Karen Happel. So it's good to see you today, Karen Happel. Thank you for taking the time.
It's good to see you too.
How's life?
Life is really good.
Life is treating you good?
So far, so good.
So far, so good. We actually have a third guest here today.
We do. His name is Mr. Harry Winston, but his friends call him Winston.
H-A-I-R-Y or H-A-R-R?
H-A-I-R-Y, because he's a Pomeranian and he's very fluffy.
Yeah, he's definitely a fluffy dog. A fluffy dog for sure. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself? This is what I tell everyone to do. Summarize your whole life in like 30 seconds.
Okay, fantastic. My name's Karen Happel. I'm 36 years old. I grew up on Long Island in New York. I went to school at Hofstra University. I got a degree in television production, and then I worked as a reality TV casting director for almost 10 years. Moved down to Orange County, and now I own my own marketing company. That
is quite something. You are an entrepreneur deluxe.
I am. Did I hit my 30 seconds? I feel like I did.
That was pretty quick.
Thank you.
So we're here to talk today about someone who you met at Hofstra.
Yes.
So we'll rewind back to that part of your life and kind of go from there.
Yes. So while I was at Hofstra, I was a television student, and I had a professor who really impacted my life. His name is Dr. Peter Gershon, and I had him for my intro to television class. At the time, I grew up in a pretty dysfunctional family, and I had a lot of really kind of dramatic stuff going on at home. And I thought that I was going to have to leave Hofstra and transfer. So I went to him one day and I told him that I loved the television program at Hofstra and I was looking for a similar program at another school. Would he help me find something that he thought that I would enjoy? And we started meeting probably once a week or once every other week, just looking at my different options. And he'd help me figure out where I wanted to apply. And slowly but surely, it started coming out everything that was going on at home. And so I started breaking down in his office. And by the end of the semester, he kind of sat there with me and he said, Karen, we really don't want you to leave. Like, you're going to be a really big part of this program. Me and, the professor you're going to have next year have talked about it. And we'd really like you to stay here if you can. And there were lots of tears. And I ended up staying. And over the course of the next few years, I became the general manager of the television station. I was a teacher's assistant for all of the...
It's Winston. God bless you.
God bless you, Winston.
Trying to have a serious talk over here. Come on, W.
So he has a little cold. So I was teacher's assistant for all of the difficult TV classes. And then I was... they called us grants. And so I was the grant for the top production course that Dr. Gershon taught. And then I was also the senior producer for the class before that. And so on Mondays, we had back-to-back classes. And so I was with this guy for like 12 or 13 hours straight. And in between the two classes, I would run to the Hofstra Deli and I'd get myself a sandwich and I'd get something for him as well. And I would leave it on his desk.
Did he pay for these sandwiches?
No, it was on my student, little student card that you have.
I see. So it's kind of yeah.
So if he's listening to this, maybe he did pay for them. I don't remember. I don't want anyone thinking that he was taking advantage of my student meal card.
Does he still work at Hofstra?
He does still work at Hofstra.
So we don't want him to lose his job because of this.
Because of chicken sandwiches.
That's pretty amazing. All that stuff that you just rattle off that you were doing at Hofstra and in the television department and all that.
Yeah.
I did not accomplish as much at college. I accomplished other things that other people would not consider accomplishments. I'll just leave it at that.
I was an overachiever. I was also the president of the National Broadcasting Society. I tutored physics, and I helped a Japanese exchange student write his film papers, employed by Hofstra doing that. And then outside of school, I had 3 jobs one semester on top of 18 credits. I'm not an overachiever. You know what I'm trying to be? I'm trying to be an achiever. That's fine. I think you're doing a podcast.
Yeah. Achieving.
You're achieving.
That's great, though. I feel like I should have taken advantage more of having access to gear, because you probably had a lot of access to gear and equipment.
We did.
At Hofstra, yeah.
We did. And it was, the Hofstra TV program is amazing. There's so many opportunities there, and I've seen what the kids are doing now, and it's still just such an amazing program, and I'm so grateful that I stayed.
Well, that's amazing that you did all that and you had spent all this time with this professor. So after you kind of decided to stay and you were very involved in the program, what was your relationship like with him, kind of on a daily basis when you were with him 12, 13 hours and learning about television production and such?
He started
bringing the sandwiches.
He started becoming more like a family member to me. It was a time in my life when I really didn't have any stable examples of what adults should do. I loved my parents dearly. They did the best that they could, but it was just very dysfunctional. And I just needed somebody to just show me what an adult should do and how they should conduct themselves, right? I'm clearly never sending the link of this podcast to my mom, but that's besides the point. And then I found out later on, so he ended up being incredibly sick my senior year, and none of the students knew. And he tells this story about how there was an equipment room, and then there was this big back parking lot where the dumpsters were and stuff like that, right? And he said he was really sick from his treatment, and he went outside and he was kind of doubled over, and all of a sudden he looked up and he saw me standing there, and he goes, "How long have you been standing there?" And apparently, I don't remember this at all.
He was throwing up?
No, he was just really feeling sick.
Just looking ill from chemotherapy, or I'm guessing?
Yeah, I don't want to go into his stuff too much,
that's fine.
Because that's kind of his story.
Sure.
But apparently he said, "How long have you been standing there?" And I just said, "Long enough to know that you're not okay." And he said in that moment, that's when he knew that we had a very special relationship. Sure.
And this was how long after your first meeting him?
I first met him when I was a sophomore, spring semester of my sophomore year, and this was probably spring semester of my senior year. So I'd known him for 2 years.
Couple of years later.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So, but he's okay now.
He's okay.
That's good.
He's great. And he continued working at Hofstra. He's the type of guy that if any student who ever had him just adores him. He gave 500% to every single thing that he did. And he was the chair of the department. And so these TV classes, right? It's not like taking philosophy or calculus where you go in and you take a class. The TV program, you are there sometimes from 8 o'clock in the morning until 11 o'clock at night. And you're, putting up sets and you're producing these shows, and it takes having a professor who's willing to go above and beyond and just be there all of the time. And, we had rehearsals on weekends and just be there and advise us. And, if something happens, where, something goes wrong, right, to have an advisor who's willing to be responsible for us and guide us.
No, that's great to have an amazing mentor like that. And I heard this on a different podcast. Someone came on and was talking about how in the United States and and really in all places in the world, that kids, spend a lot of their time with their peers, but what they should be doing is spending more time with a responsible adult, well-adjusted adult to see, how they're supposed to act, because you're not going to learn that from each other. You're going to learn the opposite,
Yeah.
As long as there's one adult in the room. Who's the adult? They always ask, who's the adult in the room? And it was this guy.
It was this guy. And I had taken on a real leadership role in a lot of ways, right? So I was learning about that, but at the same time, I needed somebody in a leadership role to learn from, right? And was so funny and he's really well written and stuff like that. And I can even see now in a lot of my humor, I can almost hear his voice. Like I've taken on a lot of his mannerisms and sense of humor and everything.
Does he have a family or as well or?
He has a brother. He never had any kids. I think we were all kind of his kids.
That makes sense. You're what's the word I'm looking for? Starts with an S. Not subordinate. What's the word?
Surrogate?
Surrogate. I might edit that. We'll see.
He was like a big brother to all of us, more so than like a dad.
Yeah.
I like to think of him as my uncle. He's like the uncle I never had.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you eventually graduated from Hofstra.
I did. I graduated. I stayed super close with him. Anytime that I was back, my parents were still living on Long Island for a long time. So anytime that I was back home, I made a point of meeting up with him for lunch or whatever. And
because you were already in Los Angeles at that point?
That's right. I moved to Los Angeles this fall after I graduated from Hofstra.
Did you correspond with him via email or phone call or anything when you...
We've always stayed in touch, email.
Just periodically?
Like, I'll call him and we'll catch up.
Texting all day long back and forth? Not that.
Not really.
Not that.
Not so much. I mean, we've texted a little bit years later. Now that texting is more of a thing.
Sure.
It's been for a long time.
But it seems like he's been consistently a part of your life,
Yes. So a few years ago, a lot's happened. My family continued becoming more and more dramatic behind the scenes, and I didn't quite know how to do with it, and my life was unraveling a little bit, and I ended up moving down to Orange County to get sober, and so we did that. But Dr. Gershon had always asked me if I would plan his retirement party for him, right? And because I had always been, not only was I like the president of this and that and doing all these
event
things,
coordinator.
I was also like the social butterfly of the group who was always like coordinating the parties and stuff like that too. So it just made sense that he would want me to plan his retirement party, right? So, however, when I got sober, he kind of asked me a few years before he retired, do you still want it? Like, are you still able to do this?
Yeah.
I was like, of course. So almost 2 years ago now, I came up with this plan it was time for his retirement party.
And this was going to be in New York.
This was going to be in New York. And so what I did was I put together a big Facebook group, and there were like hundreds of people in the Facebook group, right? Going back to the class of 1999.
Is that when he started at Harvard?
No, I think that was just like
the furthest you could go back, you could find people.
And
class of 98 is probably upset that they missed the party.
Probably. But I just started like polling people and asking people what we wanted to do, and we kind of came up with a bunch of different ideas, and I ended up crowdfunding a few $1,000s, and we rented out Gotham Comedy Club in the city, and we ended up doing like the ultimate TV project, right, where I produced a whole roast for him. So I had people drop all of the video footage that they had taken while they were in school into a Dropbox. And then one of my friends had, I think he had an intern or a PA in his office who we just had edited the whole.
So this was footage that people shot over the years while they
were students.
That's amazing. And you guys put this together.
And so we put this together. We had 3 different videos, and then I signed a bunch of people up to roast him. And so we had 7 different roasters from all different classes, and it was a whole production, and we had 150 people come.
Was this filmed, the event itself?
Yes. We filmed it.
In a professional TV production style, or just kind of
No,
not that I'm judging.
No.
But in a sense, this was this is a production in itself, this whole event.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
It really was. It felt like my final TV project,
Did he grade you guys? Did he walk in and be like,
No, but I had his girlfriend get him to sit up front. I don't think he really knew exactly what was about to happen. He knew that there was going to be a party.
Sure. He thought it would just be dinner and drinks.
Oh yeah.
Not,
No.
A whole show centered around him.
I had these two guys MC the whole thing, and then it was amazing. And it went off perfectly. And he said it was one of the greatest nights of his whole life. Not
the greatest? The hell, man. It should be at least top 2 or 3 at most. Well,
I think
no,
so.
I know. I'm sure he appreciated it.
He did. And so, we're still super close. And he's the type of, he retired, but he still teaches. So
it's like a part-time kind of thing.
So we still
That's the way to do it.
Totally. And so Hofstra now has this Hofstra in LA program every January, where they bring all of the seniors out and they have them meet all of these amazing alumni who work here and there, and they're like backstage at all these places. And I wish they had it when I was in school, but it's amazing now. And so he comes out with them, and every January we have a tradition where when all of the students go to LAX at the end of it, I pick him up, we get brunch, and then I drop him at his brother's house. And so every January I get to do that with him.
You pick him up at LAX?
No, I pick him up they stay at the Oakwoods.
Yeah.
And so the bus takes the kids from the Oakwoods to LAX.
Sure.
And I pick him up that same morning from the Oakwoods.
Gotcha.
And then we get brunch in Burbank.
Nice.
And then I drop him off at his brother's.
So this is being recorded early March, and so back this previous January, this all went down?
Every January.
Every January. Strict. You better not miss this this brunch.
I think it's been like 4 years now.
What'd you guys order at brunch?
I think
this is important for me to know.
This is important.
These are important podcast questions.
I want to say I had an omelet of some kind.
There you go.
And whatever I ordered, I remember he thought it sounded like a really good idea, and he ordered the same thing. So he is obsessed with fresh squeezed orange juice.
That was actually my next question. Well, it wasn't going to be about orange juice specifically, but I was going to ask, what other interests does he have outside of...
Well, he gets really excited about the fresh. We go to the same place. It's like Moe's or something like that.
Moe's Tavern on The Simpsons.
Is that what?
No, I'm just kidding. No, I don't know.
It's right there on Riverside. But anyway, we go there, and he loves the fresh squeezed orange juice. So every time the waiter comes over, and he's like, "You guys have some fresh squeezed orange juice here." And he does this whole little, he's very quirky.
Is he a health conscious guy that he likes to have everything's got to be fresh vegetables?
No, I feel like he's a good balance.
Yeah.
He still rides his bike all the time, long distances. Oh, and he plays the drums.
Cool. Get him out here. We'll jam.
Yeah, totally. He's like that guy. He's a former, he was like a deadhead.
All right, we'll get along.
Yeah, you guys would definitely get along.
Play some hippie music together for sure.
Yeah. And so there was this student band that would play. We had this show called Thursday Night Live, obviously, right?
Where did you get that name from?
I don't know. It sounds familiar, right? It came from somewhere. So he was the drummer in that band, and they called themselves Out of Sync.
And this was for... This was at
Hofstra.
At Hofstra, and he played in a student kind of band.
Yeah.
Did you say it was?
So there was a student bass player and a student singer and a student guitar player, and they just did cover music, and Who
was the Justin Timberlake of the Out of Sync group?
Probably Eric Koka.
Yeah,
he was the bass player.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
He was the one that all the girls were like.
Good to know. Good to know. Cool. So you guys were close, many capacities, and worked on many projects together.
Mm-hmm. And still to this day, he was one of the first people I called when I had to go to treatment for my alcoholism. And I just remember having to tell him everything that went down, and he was so supportive.
Yeah, he seems like not a judgmental person.
Not at
What's
all.
the worst thing you could say about him? What kind of a question is that?
The worst thing I could say.
I don't know what kind of
a question is that?
I think it's funny. That's the only time I think I asked that question of any of my guests so far. Did you ever see anyone not get along with him? It was probably because of them. It's probably on them.
There were always, every student gravitates more to one teacher than another.
Everyone
so
has their moments.
He definitely had his posse of students, and then there are always haters.
Sure.
What kind of, because you said he worked in, he was the head of the TV department. What were some of his, what his favorite TV shows or movies or things that he was into or most passionate about?
The Grateful Dead.
The Grateful Dead. As far as movies or television
movies or television?
Or like what were his, maybe did he have other creative passions and outlets himself?
He had done a big documentary for PBS. And so he ended up creating one of the senior shows was called FYI For Your Island. And so it was a little like magazine style show where we had to pitch different stories around Long Island and stuff like that. And then that's what we produced. And so he created that. People film and television, though. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like. No, I mean, we don't know everything about the guy, but it seems like his biggest passion, or what he's most passionate about, is the students and teaching, and
he's
the Grateful Dead.
Most incredible teacher I've ever met in my whole entire life.
I wish I could have. Maybe in the next life, he can be my teacher. Cool. I'll
introduce you next time he comes to Los Angeles.
And what about yourself? What are you working on these days? And has the doctor, Dr. Peter Gershon, the doctor, has he been of help in your entrepreneurial life?
I had an opportunity to tell him everything that's been going on when he was here in January, and it was really cool because I was able to get that positive feedback from him. So anyway, since I've left the television industry and casting reality TV, I was pretty successful in that world. I had done like all of Gordon Ramsay stuff and, HGTV stuff and Biggest Loser and all sorts of things, right? But
big productions.
Big stuff, right? Like I have my IMDb page and I'm super happy and I feel like I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish in television and now it was time for something new.
Sure.
Right? So I left in 2014. And I got a bunch of marketing jobs in different industries. I was in behavioral healthcare and then I was in aerospace randomly. And after I got laid off last year, I decided to start my own company. And it's called Genuine Content. And really what it's become is web design. I work mainly with entrepreneurs and I design websites. I manage social media accounts. And then I also coach other entrepreneurs how to market themselves. So that's, I guess, I've always loved teaching myself. I was always a tutor and a TA and all that kind of stuff, so much like Dr. Gershon. And so this coaching piece allows me to work one-on-one with entrepreneurs who are just starting out. And that's really what I'm passionate about.
That's awesome. How did you train yourself in this? Was it online courses or just learning or trial and error or is it all the above? Was there a specific method or resource you used to learn about all this?
So it's been all of the above. In my different marketing positions, I've always been really eager to learn. In my first marketing position, I noticed that we were spending a lot of money on a graphic designer. And so I went to the CEO of the company and I said, hey, listen, pay for me to take an online class and then I'll be able to do this in-house and we'll save a ton of money.
Look at that.
Right. So that's how I learned like Photoshop and InDesign and the Adobe Suite and all that kind of stuff. And then at the aerospace job, they had a Squarespace website that was not very good. And so they asked me if I could figure out how to fix it. And so that's when I became a Squarespace whiz and I built 2 websites for them. And then after I got laid off and when I realized that I was going to have to do my own thing, I knew that social media is imperative in business today. And
Sure.
So I just started learning everything that I could. Creative Live is an amazing website. That's kind of where I go to strengthen my skills, I guess.
What is that? I mean, I could check it out later, but what is Creative?
Creative Live is an amazing resource. They have online classes and photography.
Yeah, there's a bunch
design.
of I've heard of Skillshare, like a bunch of them. Like that's, I mean, I feel like we, as at least, people who have some resources have, or access to this stuff, have no excuses to not be able to better themselves and gain skills that will be valuable in the marketplace and in the future that people need.
It's true. There's so much out there. And the cool thing about Creative Live is at first they stream it live. And if you catch it when it's live, it's free. But then if you want to get the taped one, then you have to pay for it. So if you just kind of keep up, I get the emails and stuff like that. So sometimes there's something that I really want to see live. Now they have things on social media and all sorts of stuff. So eventually what I would love to do, I would love to be teaching my own online courses.
in online courses and how and marketing and social media.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then the whole model is give away some for free. And then if you want to be a paid subscriber, blah blah blah. And here's all your content and get advertisers on there potentially, like the whole 9 yards, living the dream.
And I just signed up for something called B School. This woman, Marie Forleo, is this kind of online, I don't know, she's like guru. She's a guru, and she's trained all of the other people selling marketing classes that you see out there. She's kind of trained them all. They've all gone through B School. It's been going on for 10 years, and I just kind of took the plunge, and it starts on Monday, and I'm really excited.
Exciting. About it. So did Dr. Peter have any valuable, specific, bits of wisdom for you as far as like diving into this entrepreneurial stuff and where you are?
He was just really excited for me.
Just excited and supportive. It's not necessarily his field of expertise, but
the year before that I was working in aerospace and I was just miserable. And so he could see that, and I was already looking for whatever my next thing was going to be before I got laid off. And getting laid off was the greatest thing to happen to me, right? And he could just kind of see how passionate I am about this, and it's really what I'm meant to be doing, and
that's great. Yeah. That's great to hear. Yeah. It just sounds like he's the type of dude who knows when someone needs to be listened to, when someone needs to be supported, when someone needs to hear some, words of advice or whatever the case may be. He seems to sense what people need at that particular time in their life. Is that
especially if you're an important person to him, he is
in tune with that.
He's completely selfless, and he will do whatever he can to support the people that he cares about.
Yeah, sounds like an amazing man. I hope he listens to this and enjoy this. Why don't you tell us again how to find you on social media and what you're working on these days, if you wanted to one last time get it all out there for us.
Sure. So my company's called Genuine Content. The website is genuine-content.com, and you can find me on Instagram at genuine.content. Winston also has an Instagram page, mr.harry.winston. But
I see using him to market yourself too. He's another
he does
sales pitch.
I talk a lot about personal branding and how much marketing has changed today, and if you try to hide too much behind sales and all that kind of stuff, then you're really not going to get very far. The consumer is
looking to connect.
They're looking to connect now. Everything has changed so much, and the days of Mad Men are over. People aren't buying in so much to the commercials that they see on television, but they're more likely to follow somebody on social media and be interested in what they're doing and what they're purchasing, and they want to know the person that they're buying a service from.
Yeah, I heard that there's like some controversies with some of this stuff, because some celebrities are like wearing, like, for example, like certain clothing, and is like it's blurred. The line between, is this an advertisement or is this just a guy wearing Nike? Like, what is, whatever the case may be, it's like being kind of blurred, and people are like, feel like they're being not false advertising,
like hoodwinked.
Yeah, almost. Something like that.
Yeah, and so now you start seeing the hashtag ad.
Yes,
I think you're gonna start seeing more regulation in that area for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about it, but it's something to definitely look out for moving forward.
But I think even as a business owner, just putting personal things about yourself out there, like me talking about Winston and me talking about what goes on behind the scenes in Genuine Content, right? You're almost creating a connection with strangers and building trust with strangers you've never met.
Yeah, I'm working. I mean, I'm learning right now in this very moment as we're talking about things that I can, focus on moving forward with this. So I definitely appreciate that, for sure.
Yeah, of course. And we've been able to talk about marketing as far as this podcast and everything, and that's been
baby steps.
Baby steps.
I'm putting out content right now, so once I get to episode 14,000, then by then maybe I'll have a.
No, we're gonna get you listeners before then.
Yeah, I think so.
We are
13,500.
Yeah.
No, we're good. Well, thank you again for taking the time. I appreciate it. Thank you, Winston, for remaining quiet, for the most part, other than a couple of sneezes, which is okay. There's something going around.
Yeah, I know. He's got.
It's a rainy season.
It's raining.
But I'll let you guys go. Enjoy the rest of your day and your evening, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, thank you.
So there you have it, my interview with Karen Happel. It was certainly good to catch up and hang out for a bit. Harry Winston was also nice company as well. I really enjoyed hearing all about Karen's friendship with Dr. Peter Gershon. I don't know, it's kind of funny. I feel like with this podcast, I'm so focused on booking guests and planning interviews and doing social media and putting out content, all the nuts and bolts stuff. It's like almost caught me off guard how truly inspired I've been by all my guests and the people they've discussed on the show. And I mean, isn't that the whole point of this in the first place? For me to be inspired, for you to be inspired? Anyway, I didn't mean to get super deep on you guys there. But of course, you can follow this show, People We Love, on Instagram and Twitter. Just look for the red logo with the white letters, People We Love. And there's also a Facebook page. And of course, the show is on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, all that. And if you're enjoying the show, please leave a 5-star review, a positive review on iTunes. I'd greatly appreciate it, for real. And, I'm not just saying that. I really would appreciate it, and those reviews are helpful. But I think that's about all I got for you guys today. I got plenty more great stuff coming down the pike, so stay tuned, and we will talk soon. Peace.